So as we go through our series, End Times and Demons, it's important that one of the doctrines of the devils to really avoid is a cult led by Steven Anderson. He makes more than a 1-hour video just warning people about cult leaders, but he has no idea that he himself is the cult. Steven Anderson, this is a man that you should avoid because he supports New World Order Catholic doctrine.
That's right.
Now, why does he do so, Pastor? I'm going to show you why. He made 3 major documentaries, right? The third one, I think it's still in the making. The first one is after the tribulation. Now, he has several more documentaries that he made, but the ones that became really famous is this one. The second one that became famous is this one, Marching to Zion. So this one is a post-tribulation rapture doctrine. This one is replacement theology against the nation of Israel.
Yep.
And this one is thinking that Babylon is what? USA, not Rome. So here are his 3 major documentaries, the most popular ones. But coincidentally and strangely, his 3 most famous ones just happen to what? Support Catholic doctrine. It's covering up for the Catholics.
Yep.
Let me explain right here. First of all, I'm going to give you his quote of his video on Revelation 18 verse-by-verse Bible study, January 2013. So first of all, he believes that Mystery Babylon of Revelation 17, I showed you in one video and proved it, that Revelation 17 is who? Is the Catholic Church. So this whore of Revelation, who's going to be a major player that Christians should be aware about, Anderson makes you divert attention away from this one and makes you focus on this one instead. But no, this is not what you should be focusing on. It should be this one.
Amen.
So this is wrong right here. It should be this one.
Right.
So he says right here, quote, "Now that has led some people to mistakenly apply the Roman Catholic Church definition to chapter." He's talking about Revelation 17. "And that is simply not correct. But in chapter, we're dealing with another place altogether. And the city that is destroyed, or the place that is destroyed," it's interesting. He switches from city to place.
Subtle.
You see that? He's correcting your King James Bible. You know why? Because he knows that United States is not a city.
Right.
City is Rome.
Yep.
So now he's switching to place.
Right.
I don't know if some of you people who watch him caught that. Or you were just a robot watching Jim Jones, the cult leader, on YouTube.
That's right. Get out.
"And the city that is destroyed, or the place that is destroyed, called Babylon, I believe, is the United States." Well, whoop-de-doo-dah, it is. So notice right here, he makes you divert attention away from the real enemy to this one. Now, let me show you another one. Catechism 762. So not only does he show a cover-up to divert your attention away from the real enemy, the Catholic Church, he also supports the post-tribulation rapture doctrine. This doctrine is a doctrine of the Catholic Church, you must understand.
Amen.
Guess who believes and teaches this? The Roman Catholic Church, not Bible-believing Christians. The Roman Catholic Church. The proof is Catechism 762. Quote, this is what the Catholics teach in their catechism: "The remote preparation for this gathering together of the people of God begins when he calls Abraham and promises that he will become the father of a great people." Okay, excuse me. This one is not about the post-tribulation rapture. We'll come to that one later. But this one is about replacement theology. So replacement theology, in other words, the nation of Israel is replaced by the church. By the church. So God forsook the nation of Israel and decided to turn his attention to the church instead. So this doctrine is Catholic as well. So Catechism 762, I read part of it, so let me continue reading. He calls Abraham and promises that he will become the father of a great people. Its immediate preparation begins with Israel's election as a people of God. By this election, Israel to be the sign of the future gathering of all nations. But the prophets accuse Israel of breaking the covenant and behaving like a prostitute. They announce a new and eternal covenant. Christ instituted this new covenant. And thus the Christians, the church, are the replacement. So that's why he shows right here that the Christians, Christ, continued on his covenant with Israel. Because why? The covenant with Israel is gone, and it's going to be replaced, changed with Christ through the Christians. That's why Stephen Anderson teaches that the person who is a real Jew, person who's a real part of Israel that's continuing the covenant, is those who are saved Christians. That's what he teaches. But we believe Christians are the spiritual nation, spiritual Israel. God's physical nation, his covenant with physical nation of Israel, still continues. That's what we teach and preach. This is a Roman Catholic doctrine that Stephen Anderson support. Coincidentally, in his other major documentary, Look, there's a lot of subjects you can cover, right?
Yeah.
Why these things as sympathizers with Catholic Church? Strange, isn't it? Here's another one. Post-tribulation rapture. Catechism 675 and 677. Stephen Anderson believes that the church will go through the tribulation and get raptured afterwards. Roman Catholic Church teach that too. Before Christ's second coming, the church must pass through a final trial that will shake the faith of many believers. The persecution that accompanies her pilgrimage on earth will unveil the mystery of iniquity. See, the Antichrist, the tribulation. In the form of a religious deception, offering men as apparent solution to their problems at the price of apostasy from the truth. The supreme religious deception is that of the Antichrist, a pseudo-messianism by which man glorifies himself in place of God and of his Messiah come in the flesh. The church will enter the glory of the kingdom only through this final Passover, when she will follow her Lord in his death and resurrection. The kingdom will be fulfilled then, not by a historic triumph of the church through a progressive ascendancy, but only by God's victory over the final unleashing of evil, which will cause his bride to come down from heaven. God's triumph over the revolt of evil will take the form of the last judgment after the final cosmic upheaval of this passing world. So you notice right here that through this cataclysmic event, the Roman Catholic Church says that the church will go through this trial, through this final Passover, they called it. So they believe in post-tribulation rapture doctrine, that the church, Christians, will go through the tribulation. So coincidentally, his other major documentary, it supports Catholic doctrine. So that's my question. My question is, why is it that his major documentaries, I know he made other ones, but his major ones that coincidentally get a lot of attention on YouTube are the ones that sympathizes with the Catholics? And isn't it interesting that his other documentary about defending the King James Bible, he would use that to show, I'm like you, KJV Bible believers. And through that, where he deceives the people, I'm a KJV Bible believer like you, now he can infiltrate by putting Catholic doctrine into their head.
Right.
Oh, Pastor, no. Have you heard about the Jesuit oath? The Jesuit oath? You know what their job is? Their job is to act like you, infiltrate your committee, get comfortable like you, and slyly insert some Catholic influence to make you sympathize with them. But they will still remain the enemy of the Catholic Church.
That's right.
No, yeah. Let me read the oath right here, the Jesuit oath. My son, heretofore you have been taught to act the dissembler among Roman Catholics, to be a Roman Catholic, and to be a spy even among your own brethren, to believe no man, to trust no man. Among the reformers, to be a reformer. Among the Huguenots, to be a Huguenot. Among the Calvinists, to be a Calvinist. Among the Protestants, generally to be a Protestant. And obtaining their confidence to seek even to preach from their pulpits and to denounce with all the vehemence in your nature our holy religion and the Pope. Did you hear that?
Right.
Undercover Jesuits of the fourth vow, they do preach in Protestant churches, and they will preach against the Catholic Church. To be a Protestant like you.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Stephen. You have been taught your duty as a spy to gather all statistics, facts, and information in your power from every source, to ingratiate yourself into the confidence of the family circle of Protestants and heretics of every class and character. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
He has to infiltrate and gain their confidence. Good job what he did on his first documentary about the King James Bible, so that he can what? Be among KJV Bible believers. Good job. That was smart thinking right there. And then after that, put up your other major documentaries to put some sort of Catholic stuff. Look, there's a lot of other teachings to do. Why doesn't he do one on Islam? Islam was more major during today's current events. Why didn't he do that one? Why doesn't he do a Catholic one? That's a good question too, huh? Why doesn't he do a major documentary on Catholic? Why is it a small group of people called Jews? Strange. Let's keep reading right here. So they must infiltrate to gain their confidence in character, as well as that of the merchant, the banker, the lawyer, among the schools and universities, in parliaments and legislatures, and in the judiciaries and councils of state. Isn't that scary? And to be all things to all men for the Pope's sake, whose servants we are unto death.
Right.
This same identical oath can be found in Subterranean Rome by Carlos Didier, translated from the French and published in New York in 1843. It can also be found in the Library of Congress, catalog card number 66-43354. So, you notice right here, this is dangerous stuff. So what I'm going to do is this. So there are some people who believe Stephen Anderson is a Jesuit, but for the sake of my testimony among many people watching me, I don't want them to accuse me of being crazy. So I'm not saying that Stephen Anderson is a Jesuit, but I will tell you something right here. It is something to worth think about and to be suspicious of at least.
Right.
And not only that, let's assume this. Let's even assume he's not a Jesuit. Don't you think there's a bigger conspiracy besides the Jesuits? A bigger conspiracy called Satan.
Yeah.
And Satan is using this Protestant KJV Bible-believing preacher to insert what? Catholic influence.
Right. Yeah.
Don't you think that's even more a greater danger than him being influenced by Jesuits? Don't you think that's even a greater danger that Satan would use him?
Amen.
Because let me ask you this. If Satan didn't taught him to teach this, and we know the Bible never taught him to teach this, what other spiritual force taught him to teach it?
Exactly.
He is a danger to Bible-believing Christians.
Amen.
So Stephen Anderson, you got caught with a whore. And that's going to be my title. Stephen Anderson, caught with a whore.
Amen.